She ruined my $1 million presentation, but an elite client revealed a truth that stunned us all. I watched in horror as coffee splashed across my laptop screen, destroying 3 months of work in less than 3 seconds. The presentation I'd sacrificed everything for, my weekends, my relationship, my sanity, was gone. And the woman responsible? She was smiling. But I had no idea that this disaster would lead to the most shocking revelation of my career. One that would expose secrets my company had kept buried for years and force me to question everything I thought I knew about success, loyalty, and the price we pay to climb the corporate ladder. My name is Sarah Mitchell, and this is the story of how losing everything taught me what truly matters. Part 1. The Climb. The fluorescent lights of Morrison & Klein's headquarters flickered slightly as I stepped into the elevator at 6:47 a.m. I was always the first one in. Always. That's how you get ahead in corporate America. You outwork everyone else, you stay later, arrive earlier, and you never, ever show weakness. I was 31 years old and I'd spent the last 7 years clawing my way up from junior analyst to senior account director. My corner office on the 42nd floor wasn't huge, but it had windows. Real windows that looked out over downtown Chicago. That view had cost me countless dinner dates, missed birthdays, and a relationship with a man who'd once loved me enough to propose. "You care more about that company than you care about us," Jake had said the night he packed his bags. That was 14 months ago. I'd told myself he was wrong, that I could have both. But deep down, I knew he'd been right. The elevator doors opened to reveal our floor already buzzing with activity. Interns rushed past carrying stacks of documents. Junior analysts huddled around a conference table, their faces illuminated by laptop screens. The scent of fresh coffee mixed with printer toner created that distinct corporate perfume I'd come to associate with ambition. "Sarah, thank God you're here." Marcus Chen, my closest colleague and the only person at Morrison & Klein I'd call a friend, practically jogged toward me. His tie was already loosened despite the early hour, and his typically neat black hair looked like he'd been running his hands through it. "What's wrong?" I asked, my stomach already nodding. In our world, emergencies were as common as coffee breaks. Henderson moved the presentation up. "It's today, 3 p.m. The world tilted slightly. "What?" "No, it's scheduled for next Friday. I told them I needed until next Friday. Apparently, their CEO is flying to Singapore tomorrow, and if we don't present today, we lose the pitch entirely. Sarah, this is the Henderson account. 15 million in the first year alone, maybe 50 million over 5 years. I gripped my briefcase tighter. The Henderson Corporation deal wasn't just big, it was career-defining. The kind of account that turned senior directors into vice presidents, the kind that put your name on the door. "Okay," I said, forcing my voice to stay steady. "Okay, I can do this. The presentation is 90% done. I just need to finalize the financial projections and polish the pitch deck." Marcus's expression softened with something that looked like pity. "There's one more thing. They're assigning someone to assist you." "I don't need assistance. I've got this handled. It's not optional. Pearson's orders." Richard Pearson was our division head, a silver-haired man in his 50s who'd built his reputation on closing impossible deals. He was brilliant, ruthless, and had never shown me an ounce of favoritism despite my track record. "Who?" I asked, though part of me already dreaded the answer. "New hire. Started 2 weeks ago, transferred from our London office. Supposedly some kind of prodigy. Her name is Rebecca Winters." The voice came from behind me, crisp and British and dripping with confidence. I turned to find a woman who looked like she'd stepped out of a fashion magazine editorial on power dressing in the modern age. She was maybe 27, with sharp features, perfectly styled auburn hair, and a designer suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "I'm so looking forward to working with you on the Henderson pitch, Sarah. I've heard wonderful things about your work ethic." There was something in the way she said work ethic that made it sound like an insult dressed up as a compliment. I'd met 100 Rebecca Winters in my career. People who thought pedigree and connections mattered more than actual skill. "Great," I said, matching her fake smile with one of my own. "Let's get started then. We have exactly—" I checked my watch. 8 hours and 13 minutes to make this perfect. Part 2. The partner I never wanted. My office felt smaller with Rebecca in it. She'd commandeered the chair across from my desk and was already scrolling through her phone with the casual entitlement of someone who'd never had to prove herself. Meanwhile, I was pulling up files, cross-referencing data, and trying to ignore the tension headache building behind my eyes. "So," Rebecca said without looking up, "what's our angle on Henderson?" "Our angle is that we provide superior data analytics combined with personalized strategic consulting. We've built a comprehensive model showing how our services could improve their supply chain efficiency by 18% in the first year alone." "Boring?" I looked up sharply. "Excuse me?" Now she did meet my eyes. "It's boring, Sarah. Every consulting firm in the city is pitching efficiency and analytics. What makes us different? What makes us memorable? What makes us memorable is solid data and proven results. This isn't about flashy presentations, it's about substance." Rebecca laughed, an elegant, dismissive sound. "Darling, it's always about the presentation. These people don't remember your data. They remember how you made them feel. You're selling them a story, not a spreadsheet." "I've closed 43 accounts in my 7 years here," I said coldly. "How many have you closed?" 67. "In 4 years? At 3 different firms." The number hit me like a slap. 67 accounts? That was impossible, wasn't it? Rebecca must have seen the doubt on my face because her smile sharpened. "I'm good at what I do, Sarah, and what I do is make people believe. The data matters, sure, but the story? That's everything." I wanted to argue. I wanted to tell her that merit and hard work were what mattered in the end. But a small, traitorous part of my mind wondered if she was right. How many presentations had I watched fail despite having better numbers than the competition? How many times had I lost deals to firms with flashier pitches and weaker substance? "Fine," I said finally. "What do you suggest?" Rebecca's whole demeanor changed. She sat forward, suddenly animated. "We don't lead with efficiency, we lead with transformation. Henderson Corporation isn't just looking to save money, they're looking to dominate their industry. We position ourselves as the partner who will take them from regional player to global powerhouse." "That's actually not bad." "I know." She grinned, and for the first time, it seemed genuine. "Now, let's rebuild this entire presentation from scratch." The next 6 hours blurred together into a caffeine-fueled marathon of collaboration, and I hated to admit it, but Rebecca was brilliant. She saw angles I'd missed. She knew which data points would resonate and which would bore. She transformed my meticulous, detail-oriented presentation into something compelling. By noon, we had a draft that was actually better than what I'd spent 3 months creating alone. By 1 p.m., we were polishing the final slides. By 2 p.m., I was starting to think maybe, just maybe, Rebecca wasn't my enemy after all. That's when everything fell apart. Part 3. The Spill. "I need coffee," Rebecca announced, standing and stretching. "Want anything?" "I'm fine," I said, not looking up from the slide I was editing. We had 53 minutes until the presentation, and I wanted to rehearse at least twice more. "Suit yourself." She left, and I allowed myself a moment to breathe. The presentation was good. Really good. Maybe the best work I'd ever done. The Henderson executives would be impressed. Pearson would be impressed. This deal was going to change my career trajectory. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. "Call me when you have a minute, sweetheart. Miss you." Guilt twisted in my chest. When was the last time I'd called home? 3 weeks? 4? I fired back a quick, "Miss you too, Mom. We'll call this weekend. Promise." Knowing I probably wouldn't. The office door opened, and Rebecca walked in carrying 2 coffee cups. "I know you said you didn't want any, but I got you one anyway. Peace offering. We got off on the wrong foot this morning." She extended one of the cups toward me, and I felt a rush of warmth. Maybe I'd misjudged her. Maybe the competitiveness I'd sensed was just my own insecurity projecting. "Thank you," I said, reaching for the cup. "That's really—" Everything happened in slow motion and yet impossibly fast. Rebecca's foot caught on my laptop cord. She stumbled forward. The coffee cup flew from her hand, arcing through the air like a terrible brown comet. I watched, frozen, as it hit my laptop screen dead center. Coffee exploded across my desk, across my laptop, my notes, my backup drive that I'd stupidly left sitting right next to the computer. "No," I lunged forward, trying to save something, anything, but it was too late. My laptop screen flickered once, twice, then went black. Coffee dripped onto the floor. The backup drive's light blinked red, then died. "Oh my God," Rebecca said, her hand over her mouth. "Oh my God, Sarah, I'm so sorry. I tripped on the cord. I didn't mean—" "The presentation," I whispered. "The Henderson presentation. It's gone." No, you have it backed up somewhere else, right? Cloud storage? Another drive?" I stared at the ruined equipment, my mind refusing to process what had just happened. I was going to back it up to the cloud during lunch. I hadn't gotten to it yet. The backup drive? That was yesterday's version, before we made all the changes. The silence in the room was deafening. "How much did we change?" Rebecca asked quietly. "Everything. We changed everything. The entire narrative, the data visualization, the strategic framework. It's all gone." I looked at my watch. 2:17 p.m. We had 43 minutes until the most important presentation of my career, and we had nothing. Rebecca was already moving, pulling out her phone. Okay, don't panic. We can reconstruct it. I took some photos of the slides for reference, and I have notes on my laptop. We can—" "There's no time. Rebecca, it took us 6 hours to build that presentation, and it was building on 3 months of my preliminary work. We can't recreate it in 40 minutes. So what do you want to do? Cancel? Give up?" I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. I wanted to throw something. But what I did instead was take a deep breath and force myself to think. "Get Pearson," I said. "Tell him we need to postpone. Tell him there was a technical failure. Tell him—" "I'll tell him the truth," Rebecca interrupted. "That I spilled coffee on your laptop and destroyed the presentation. This is my fault, Sarah. I'll take responsibility." For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. In the corporate world, taking responsibility for a blown deal worth millions was career suicide. But then I remembered that this was my career on the line too. My years of work, my sacrifice. "Just get him," I said tiredly. "Let me do the talking." Rebecca nodded and left. I sank into my chair, staring at the coffee-soaked ruins of my ambition, and wondered how everything had gone so wrong so fast. Part 4. The Impossible Choice. Richard Pearson stood in my doorway like a monument to corporate disappointment. His silver hair was perfectly in place. His expression was perfectly neutral. But I could see the calculation in his eyes, already determining how this failure would affect his division's numbers. "Explain," he said simply. I stood, squaring my shoulders. There was an accident. My laptop and backup drive were damaged. The presentation file is unrecoverable. I take full responsibility for not having additional backups in place. Rebecca started to speak, but Pearson held up one hand. I don't care about the accident, I care about solutions. Can you recreate the presentation? Not in time for the 3 o'clock meeting, sir. If we could just postpone. No. The word hung in the air like a guillotine blade. Sir, please, just 24 hours. I can rebuild everything. It'll be better than before. Just. Sarah, the Henderson CEO flies out tonight. If we don't present today, we don't present at all. They'll go with Blackstone Consulting instead. Then maybe we should let them go to Blackstone. Sir, I can't walk into that room with nothing. It'll be humiliating. It'll damage our reputation worse than postponing would. Pearson studied me for a long moment. Then he said something I didn't expect. You're not going in with nothing. You're going in with 7 years of experience, intimate knowledge of their business model, and the confidence of someone who's closed 43 deals. You're going to walk in there and pitch from the heart instead of from slides. My stomach dropped. Sir, that's not how we do presentations. It's how I built this company, Sarah, before PowerPoint and data visualization and all the flashy theater we do now. You know what you need to tell them, so tell them. But this is not a debate. You have 37 minutes. I suggest you use them to prepare instead of argue. He turned to leave, then paused. And Sarah, this is your deal. Yours alone. Rebecca will not be joining you in the presentation. What? Rebecca stepped forward. Sir, I can help. I can at least provide support, answer questions. You've helped enough. Pearson's tone could have frozen nitrogen. Sarah closes this alone, or she doesn't close it at all. He left. Rebecca and I stood in the ruined office, and I felt the weight of 7 years pressing down on my shoulders. Everything I'd worked for, everything I'd sacrificed, came down to this. 37 minutes to prepare for a presentation worth $15 million with absolutely nothing but my own knowledge and nerve. Sarah, Rebecca said softly, I'm so sorry. I'll find a way to make this right, I promise. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw something in her expression I couldn't quite read. Guilt, yes. But something else. Something that made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. But I didn't have time to analyze it. I had 37 minutes, and I needed every second. Just go, I said. I need to think. She hesitated, then nodded and left. I was alone with my thoughts, my terror, and the impossible task ahead of me. Part 5. The pitch. The Henderson Corporation executives looked exactly like I'd expected. 3 men in expensive suits, perfectly groomed, radiating the kind of confidence that comes from controlling a multi-billion-dollar company. Their CEO, James Henderson III, sat in the center. 60-something silver hair, a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. To his left was their CFO, Michael Chang, younger and sharper, already making notes on his tablet. To his right was their Chief Strategy Officer, Elizabeth Warren, no relation to the senator, I'd confirmed. A woman in her 50s with the calculating gaze of someone who'd built her career on spotting weakness. And there I stood, at the front of our largest conference room, with no slides, no data visualization, no carefully rehearsed pitch deck. Just me, a whiteboard, and a racing heart. Pearson sat in the back corner, his expression unreadable. Marcus had slipped in too, offering me a supportive nod that did nothing to calm my nerves. Ladies and gentlemen, I began, my voice steadier than I felt. Thank you for adjusting your schedule to meet with us today. I'm Sarah Mitchell, Senior Account Director at Morrison & Klein, and I'm here to tell you why we're the only firm that can take Henderson Corporation where it needs to go. I picked up a marker and drew a single line on the whiteboard. This is where you are now. A regional leader in industrial supply chain management, respected, profitable, secure. I drew a second line, much higher. This is where you need to be. A global powerhouse that doesn't just compete in the market but defines it. James Henderson leaned back in his chair. Miss Mitchell, we were expecting a comprehensive presentation, data, analysis, projections. Instead, we get a whiteboard? This was it. The moment where I either crashed and burned or proved that 7 years of sacrifice had been worth something. Mr. Henderson, respectfully, you don't need another PowerPoint deck. You've seen dozens of them from firms pitching the same efficiency improvements and cost savings. They're all saying the same thing. We can make you slightly better at what you're already doing. I met his gaze directly. I'm not here to make you slightly better. I'm here to tell you that everything you're currently doing is wrong. The room went silent. Even Pearson looked surprised. Elizabeth Warren's eyebrows rose. That's quite a bold statement. It's an honest one. For the past 3 months, I've been studying your company. Not just your public financials and quarterly reports, but your actual operations. I've talked to your suppliers, your distributors, your competitors. And you know what I found? I drew a circle on the whiteboard and divided it into sections. Henderson Corporation is structured like a 20th century business trying to compete in a 21st century market. You have 7 different regional divisions, each operating semi-independently, each with its own supply chains, its own vendor relationships, its own systems. You're not one company. You're 7 companies wearing the same logo. Michael Chang stopped taking notes and looked up. We maintain regional autonomy to stay responsive to local markets. And it's costing you approximately $47 million annually in redundancy and inefficiency. I wrote the number on the board. I had no slides to back it up. But I'd run the calculations so many times that I knew them by heart. That's just waste. The real cost is opportunity. While your regional divisions compete with each other for resources and market share, your competitors are consolidating, streamlining, and preparing to eat your lunch. Blackstone Consulting will tell you they can optimize your current structure. We're telling you that your current structure is the problem. For the next 30 minutes, I talked. I drew diagrams on the whiteboard. I cited specific examples from their operations that I'd memorized. I painted a picture of transformation so comprehensive it was almost scary. A complete restructuring of their business model, a unified technology platform, a shift from regional thinking to global strategy. And somewhere in the middle of it all, I forgot to be nervous. I forgot about the coffee-stained laptop and the ruined presentation. I forgot about Rebecca and Pearson and career trajectories. I just talked. Passionately, honestly, about what I believed Henderson Corporation could become if they had the courage to change. When I finally stopped, my throat was dry and my hand was cramping from gripping the marker so hard. James Henderson was the first to speak. Miss Mitchell, that was quite a performance. My heart sank. Performance. Not presentation, not pitch. Performance, as in entertaining but not credible. However, he continued, I have a question. Of course. Your entire pitch assumes we're willing to undergo massive disruption, to restructure everything we've built over 40 years. Why would we take that risk? Why would we bet our company's future on your firm's advice? This was it. The moment every consultant dreads, the question behind the question. Why should we trust you? I took a breath and decided to be honest. Completely, radically honest. Because 3 hours ago, I had the perfect presentation ready to show you. 53 slides of immaculate data visualization, financial projections, risk analyses, implementation timelines. It was beautiful. It was safe. It was exactly what you expected to see. I set the marker down. And it was wrong. It was me playing it safe, giving you a slightly better version of what every other firm would pitch. It took a disaster to strip all of that away and force me to tell you what I really believe: that you don't need optimization, you need transformation. And yes, that's risky. Yes, that's scary. But the alternative is slow, comfortable decline, while hungrier, smarter competitors devour your market share. The room was absolutely silent. Then James Henderson did something I didn't expect. He laughed. A real, genuine laugh that crinkled the corners of his eyes. "Elizabeth," he said, turning to his chief strategy officer. "What do you think?" She studied me for a long moment. Then she smiled, a small, knowing smile. "I think Miss Mitchell just gave us the most honest pitch we've heard in 20 years. Michael?" The CFO nodded slowly. "The numbers she cited align with my own internal analysis. She's done her homework." Henderson turned back to me. "Miss Mitchell, we're going to need to see actual data to back up everything you just said. We're going to need detailed implementation plans, risk assessments, the works." "Of course," I said, trying not to let hope bubble up too fast. "But the answer is yes. Morrison & Klein has the Henderson account." "Congratulations." I stood frozen, certain I'd misheard. You're saying yes?" "I'm saying you convinced me that you understand our business better than we understand it ourselves. That's rare. That's valuable. And that's exactly what we need." He stood and extended his hand. "Let's change the world together, shall we?" I shook his hand, my mind reeling. I'd done it. Against all odds, with no preparation and no materials, I'd closed the biggest deal of my career. The Henderson executives filed out, already discussing next steps with Pearson. Marcus rushed over to congratulate me, his face split by a huge grin. "Sarah, that was incredible. You absolutely crushed it." I hugged him, feeling the adrenaline finally catching up with me. My hands were shaking. My legs felt weak. But I'd won. Despite everything, I'd won. Then I looked toward the door and saw Rebecca standing there. She'd watched the entire presentation, and she was crying. Part 6. The first crack in the facade. "Rebecca." She wiped at her eyes quickly, trying to compose herself. "Congratulations, you were amazing. You really were." Something in her voice was off. This wasn't just professional jealousy or disappointment at missing out on the pitch. This was something deeper. "Are you okay?" I asked, approaching her cautiously. "No," she said simply. "Sarah, I need to talk to you, privately." Marcus looked between us, sensing the tension. "I'll, leave you two alone. Congratulations again, Sarah. You earned this." Once he left, Rebecca and I moved back into my office, the scene of the disaster that had somehow led to my greatest triumph. "What's going on?" I asked. Rebecca sank into the chair across from my desk, her usual confidence completely gone. She looked young suddenly, vulnerable. "I need to tell you something, and you're going to hate me for it." A cold feeling spread through my chest. "What did you do?" "The coffee spill wasn't an accident." The words hit me like a physical blow. "What?" "I spilled the coffee on purpose. I destroyed your presentation deliberately. Sarah, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." I stepped back, my mind struggling to process this. "Why? Why would you do that?" "Because I was paid to." The floor seemed to tilt. "Paid? By who?" Rebecca's hands were shaking as she pulled out her phone. She brought up an email and handed it to me. It was from an account I didn't recognize, but the message was clear. $50,000 transferred upon confirmation of Henderson pitch failure. Target, Sarah Mitchell. Method, your discretion. The email was dated 2 weeks ago, the day Rebecca had started at Morrison & Klein. "I don't understand," I whispered. "Who sent this?" "I don't know. The transfer came through an offshore account. completely untraceable. But Sarah, the offer came through someone inside Morrison and Klein, someone who has access to our internal systems, our schedules, our client list. I felt sick. Someone here wanted me to fail? Not just fail. They wanted you destroyed. They wanted the Henderson deal to fall through so catastrophically that your career would be over. And you just agreed? For money? Rebecca's eyes filled with tears again. I have a daughter. She's 4 years old. Her father left us before she was born. The London office was about to lay me off. I was desperate. When this offer came through, God, Sarah, I know there's no excuse. I know what I did was unforgivable, but I thought I could just sabotage your presentation and you'd postpone, and no real harm would be done. No real harm? My voice was rising. Rebecca, you almost destroyed my career. You almost cost this firm $15 million. And you're telling me someone paid you to do it? I know. And watching you in that presentation, watching you pull off the impossible, I couldn't live with it. You deserve to know the truth. I paced the office, my mind racing. Who? Who at Morrison and Klein would want to sabotage me? Who have I? And then it clicked. 6 months ago, there had been a promotion. One position opening up for VP of Strategic Accounts. 2 candidates, me and Daniel Reeves, a senior director in the New York office. I'd gotten the promotion. Daniel had been furious, claiming the decision was based on favoritism rather than merit. Daniel Reeves, I said. It was Daniel Reeves, wasn't it? Rebecca shook her head. I told you, I don't know who sent the email, but Sarah, there's more. The Henderson deal? Someone leaked our pitch strategy to Blackstone Consulting. That's why Henderson moved the timeline up. Blackstone was about to present first, using our information. What? How do you know this? Because I was told to steal your pitch deck and send it to the same anonymous email before I sabotaged your presentation. I couldn't do it. I couldn't steal from you on top of everything else. So I warned Blackstone anonymously that their Henderson pitch was compromised. That's why Henderson suddenly wanted to hear from us today instead of next week. They wanted to see if we'd present the same strategy Blackstone was about to pitch. My head was spinning. This wasn't just about sabotaging my career. This was corporate espionage. This was a coordinated effort to steal our client and destroy our firm's reputation. We need to tell Pearson, I said. We need to tell him everything. And tell him what? That I was hired to sabotage you and I succeeded? Sarah, I'll be fired. Probably arrested, and we still don't know who's behind this. Then we find out. We figure out who sent that email, who hired you, who's been leaking our information to competitors. Rebecca, if they did this to me, they're doing it to others. This is bigger than just my career. Rebecca looked up at me, something like hope flickering in her eyes. You want to investigate? Even after what I did to you? I want the truth. And I want whoever's responsible to pay for it. I felt a strange calm settling over me. Yes, Rebecca had betrayed me, but she'd also come clean, and something about her story rang true. The desperation, the remorse, the pieces that didn't quite fit. How do we even start? Rebecca asked. I thought for a moment. The email. It came through our system, right? Someone inside had to have access to send it. It's routed through enough proxies that IT would never be able to trace it. Maybe not through official channels, but Marcus has a friend in digital forensics. If we can get him to look at it quietly. You trust Marcus? Did I? I'd known him for 6 years. We'd worked on dozens of deals together. He'd been supportive, friendly, reliable. But then again, I would have said I could trust the integrity of Morrison and Klein before today. I trust him more than I trust anyone else here right now, I said finally. Rebecca nodded. Okay. So we bring in Marcus, we trace the email, we find out who's behind this, and then what? Then we make sure they can never do this to anyone else. I looked at Rebecca, really looked at her, and saw not the confident climber I'd met that morning, but a scared woman who'd made a terrible choice and was trying to make it right. I can't promise I'll forgive you, I said quietly, but I can work with you to fix this. Deal? She extended her hand. Deal. We shook on it. Two women who'd been enemies 12 hours ago, now united by the knowledge that something rotten was happening at Morrison and Klein, and we were going to expose it. Part 7. The investigation begins. Marcus listened to our story in complete silence. We'd pulled him into an empty conference room on the 45th floor, far from our usual workspace, and, hopefully, far from whoever was watching. When we finished, he leaned back in his chair and let out a long breath. This is insane. You're telling me someone inside our company is running corporate espionage operations? Paying people to sabotage colleagues? That's exactly what I'm telling you, I said. And you believe her? He jerked his chin toward Rebecca. The woman who literally destroyed your presentation on purpose? Rebecca flinched but said nothing. I believe the evidence, I said. Look at the email, look at the timing. Someone wanted the Henderson deal to fail, and they were willing to pay $50,000 to make it happen. Marcus pulled out his phone. Send me the email. I'll forward it to my friend Alexei. He's freelance now, but he used to work for the FBI's cybercrime division. If anyone can trace this, he can. How much will it cost? Rebecca asked quietly. For this? He'll do it as a favor. Alexei hates corporate corruption. It's basically his hobby to expose this stuff. I felt a flicker of hope. How long will it take? Couple days, maybe? He's good, but whoever set this up knew what they were doing. The proxies? The offshore account? This is sophisticated. So what do we do in the meantime? I asked. Marcus tapped his fingers on the table, thinking. We look for patterns. If they did this to you, Sarah, chances are you're not the first. We need to go through the past year of failed deals, missed presentations, career-ending mistakes. See if there's a common thread. That's hundreds of cases, Rebecca pointed out. Maybe thousands across all offices. Then we start with the big ones, the deals that should have closed but didn't, the senior people who suddenly resigned or got fired for unexplained reasons. He was right. We needed to look bigger. But a thought was nagging at me. Marcus, who knew about the Henderson deal? I mean, who had access to my presentation files? In theory? Just you and Rebecca. But realistically? Anyone with access to our shared drive. That's probably 40 people? 50? What about outside the team? You'd need administrator access for that. So IT, definitely. Senior management. Pearson, obviously. Pearson, I repeated. The name felt wrong in my mouth. He was demanding, yes, sometimes harsh. But corrupt? Could the man who'd built Morrison and Klein into one of the most respected consulting firms in the country really be behind something like this? What about the New York office? Rebecca suggested. If someone there wanted Sarah's VP position, they'd have motivation. Daniel Reeves, Marcus said immediately. He threw a fit when Sarah got promoted instead of him. Sent some pretty aggressive emails to HR about how the decision was politically motivated. I'd seen those emails. Daniel had claimed I'd slept my way to the top, a vicious lie that had been quietly investigated and dismissed, but it had stung. It always stings when someone tries to diminish your accomplishments by implying you didn't earn them. Could Daniel access our systems from New York? I asked. Absolutely. We're all on the same network. He'd have the same access to the shared drive that anyone in his position has. Then he's our prime suspect. I stood up, feeling energized. Having a target, even a tentative one, felt better than the nebulous fear of an unknown enemy. We need to find out if Daniel had any connection to Rebecca before she was hired. Rebecca was already pulling out her phone. I can check my emails, see if there's anything from him. But, I'm telling you, I never heard the name Daniel Reeves before today. The offer came through a recruiter, right? Marcus asked. When you transferred from London? Yes. A woman named Patricia Hammond. She contacted me about the opening here, handled all the paperwork. Is that normal, for transfers? Rebecca shrugged. I assumed so. I'd never transferred between offices before. Marcus and I exchanged glances. That's not normal, I said. Internal transfers usually go through HR directly. Why would they use an external recruiter? Maybe Patricia Hammond doesn't exist, Marcus said slowly. Or maybe she's in on it. I have her email address, Rebecca offered, and her phone number.